Have you set a deadline for when you're going to publish, or even when your next draft will be completed by?
Have you?
Or a better question is, should you use a deadline? There are both pros and cons to using a deadline as part of your writing system. Trust me, I know. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 pros on using a deadline. My next video, I'll go over 5 cons on using deadlines. And in 2 weeks' time, I'll go over how to use a deadline not only helps, but actually works. What's up, Internet? I'm Tim Green, and this is my writing channel. You can download my free Excel word count trackers. Like, subscribe. Let's get started. Let's be honest, while drafting a novel, there are going to be days you just don't feel like doing it.
It's natural.
Even when you're super about the project. This especially can happen when you have a rather tough work in progress. Having that deadline can keep you motivated to sit down and work through the toughness. This is because you know when you hit that date, it's done, over. You can move on to something different or something easier. And that's the thing about a deadline. It keeps you motivated, keeps you showing up and sitting down and writing. Which leads into, to meet a deadline, you need to be writing regularly. Which means you need to develop the habit of writing. It makes it easier to do this, to form this habit. Simply because if you don't, when you're closing in on that deadline, you're either going to do one of two things: rush to complete it, or just give up on the project altogether. And trust me, rushing is never good. Now, a regular habit of writing does not mean you have to write every day, even though there are great benefits of doing so. It can be only 3 times a week, or maybe just on the weekends. As long as the deadline you set for yourself reflects how often you're going to write, you should be fine. Example, if you only run the weekends and giving yourself 30 days or a month to write, this is not enough time. Now, if you only counting weekends, you should be good. Let me start off by saying, to use a deadline, you need to have a must be done by date. If you have a must be done by date far in the future, this allows you to set a more personal deadline that you would like to be done by, but it doesn't absolutely have to. This gives you several benefits because it allows you to adjust to anything that comes up. Anyone who's done National Novel Writing Month knows for a fact life happens. Maybe 2 weeks in, a family emergency pops up out of nowhere and you won't be able to write for 2 to 3 weeks. Great, you take your personal deadline that you want and push it back that many weeks. Maybe you get to a part in the story where all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's a huge plot hole that you just don't know how to fix. You can push your personal deadline back. As long as the draft or the overall everything for the project is done by your absolute deadline, you're fine. It gives you flexibility to adapt to anything that comes up. And that's awesome! Things that have a deadline and are important to us, key part there, get done faster than when we don't have a deadline, which means you'll write the book faster than if you don't have a time to get it done by. If you have a deadline that even gives you the slightest idea that you may not make it, just makes you not want to use deadlines. You don't want to have it because it's just, I may not make it and then I'll feel bad. See, this is where tracking your word counts come into play. See, if you have a general idea of how many words you write on average a day, setting a deadline that you can make becomes so much easier. And because of that, you won't question if you can make this deadline because you know. When you have a deadline and other people know about it, it creates accountability. This is why you should tell people when you want the first draft or the project of your work in progress done by. This is because you have someone you have to answer to if you don't achieve it. Randy Ingermanson, the creator of the Snowflake Writing Method, had such accountability. Not for deadlines, but for showing up. He wrote up a contract with a friend of his that if he did not email him by 9 a.m. every day that he was at his desk ready working, he had to pay his friend $100. Randy went on to say the first time he missed, or I think he was about a minute late, and paid that $100, he was never late or missed a day again. Now imagine having that kind of accountability,
but for a deadline.
If you had to pay someone or a few people $100, $200, $500 for not making your deadline, I bet you'd make that deadline. It worked for me. There you have it. Those are the pros to using a deadline. Next week's video, I'll cover the cons for using a deadline. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would smash that like button and subscribe. Don't forget you can download my free Excel word count trackers. The board, in my opinion, is the best writing tool ever. But how do you set one up? Click this video here to find out how I set up my boards. And I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Bye.